Hello, my name is Michael Gervais. Today we're going to be smoking beef jerky in the Traeger 885 Ironwood smoker. I've been smoking meat since I was 12 years old when my dad would bring home venison and we'd make it in the oven at home with my mom. So let's get started. Today we're going to make some beef jerky. Very simple dry rub process. And the meat we're going to use today is a top round, also known as London broil. London broil is the way to cook a top round. You can also use eye of round. It's a very lean meat, not much fat, and good grain quality in the meat itself for making jerky. So when you're making jerky, you want to remove as much fat as possible. Fat will spoil first and make your jerky go rancid sooner. So we want to start by removing all this fat here, any kind of silver skin or any other fat. Marbling in the meat is not bad, it'll be okay. So we want to start removing the fat on the meat. I use Henckel knives. Your knives must be sharp to safely cut your meat uniformly. Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. Okay, we have the meat all trimmed, all the fat off of it, just some marbling in the meat, that'll be fine. The longer you dry out your meat, the more preserved it will be, but the drier it will be to taste. The least amount, the moist meat will provide a shorter lifespan for the meat, but if it's eaten quickly, it's not going to be a problem. So, that's it. We're good. Now that we have the fat trimmed off the meat, we're ready to go ahead and put it in the freezer to let it firm up so we can cut it easily for our jerky strips. So I like to cover it with some saran wrap. We're ready to put it in the freezer for 30 to 45 minutes to let it firm up. Okay, now that the meat's been in the freezer for a half hour to 45 minutes, firming up and getting ready to be cut into 1/4-inch slices for our jerky to go into the brine. Okay, there's two ways to cut the meat, and it's an option that you can make yourself. And one way is to cut cross grain, which is this way, because the grain of the meat's going that way, or you can cut it long ways with the grain this way. Cutting it crossways makes for an easier pull on your jerky. Cutting it long ways or with the grain makes a harder pull on your jerky. Either way is fine, it's up to you to make the decision. Okay, let's get started cutting this meat. We're going to cut it cross grain. So what I'm going to do is just take off this end piece to square up the meat. I'll deal with that later. And then now we can start cutting the meat in 1/4-inch slices. You can cut the meat in any thickness you'd like. 1/4 inch is what I like because you're going to lose about half of that thickness in the drying process. Now we're ready to make our dry rub. Very simple. dry rub, a sweet, hot dry rub. Our first ingredient would be black pepper, 1 tablespoon. Second ingredient would be 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. One teaspoon of garlic powder. 1 teaspoon of onion powder. 1 teaspoon of canning pickling salt. And 1 teaspoon of pizza peppers. Now that we've got the brine all mixed up thoroughly, we're going to pour it in our big mixing bowl that we're going to add our meat to. So we have our dry rub in the bowl, mixing bowl. We're going to start adding our meat to it. We're going to mix this up thoroughly, make sure every piece is coated evenly. And once we get this thoroughly coated with our brine mixture, we're going to put it back into the refrigerator again for overnight. At least 8 hours, up to 24 or more if you like. Okay, now that we have our beef jerky in the brine all mixed up thoroughly, we're going to put it in another bowl here, get it ready to go into the refrigerator. And what you want to do is take a piece of saran wrap and cover it. So it's airtight. You put it in the refrigerator overnight, up to 24 hours or more if you like. Okay, now that we've taken the meat out of the refrigerator that's been brining overnight, 24 hours, we're ready to put it onto the rack. Okay, I like to use LEM smoking grills and racks for smoking jerky or any meat product, fish, turkey, chicken, whatever. High quality product, works well, cleans up nicely, and great product. Use it. Thank you. Okay, let's remove the wrapper, the cellophane cover for the meat. Put that aside. Okay, what we want to do is space out the meat evenly on the rack. We don't want them touching. We need some air distance, space for airflow, so it smokes evenly. Because it's going to shrink probably about 50% here, so we can just barely touch and it should be okay. Let's continue to lay these out. Started out to be a 2-pound piece of top round. Looks like it's just going to perfectly fit on this rack. Okay, now it's ready to go into the Traeger Smoker. Now we're ready to put the racks of meat in our Traeger 1080 Ironwood Smoker. We're going to set that for 180 degrees, and it should take, depending on the weather, if it's cold or the humidity, I'm thinking 7-8 hours in the smoker. We'll see. We'll get started by putting it in the rack, and we'll come back and check that meat in a couple of hours. See how we look. Okay, it's been 2 hours now in the smoker. Let's check a piece of the meat here. We have some jerky here. And as you can see, it's very wobbly, flexible, and not done at all. It looks a lot better. It's got some good color on it and needing quite a bit more drying process. So at this point, we're going to shut off the super smoke function on the Traeger and go to regular smoking process. So we'll put this back in and we'll come back in a couple hours and check it again. Okay, now it's been a couple more hours and we're at 4 hours into the smoking process, and I don't expect it to be completely done, but we want to keep checking it every hour from now on because we're getting closer to the end of the process. Okay, let's open it up. Alright, we're looking really good now. See, the meat right now is still pretty bendable. It's starting to take shape, but I think it needs some more time here. We're going to come back in another hour and check it again.
I would like to explain the background noise I'm sure you've been listening to. And here in Southern Oregon, we got some really good rainfall this year, and this is Beaver Creek in my backyard, which is right next to my porch where my Traeger Smoker is.
We're at the 7-hour mark for our jerky in the Traeger Smoker, and it's time to check it. I think it's going to be pretty close to being done. So let's give it a check. Oh yeah, look at that. Looking really good. I think we're going to be done. Grab a piece of jerky here. See how it just stays by itself, just no bend at all. And what we want to do is bend it like this, and and it breaks open. It doesn't snap. So when you have these white fibers here, and this jerky here looks like it's ready to go. This is the way I like it. Okay, let's go ahead and sample this. Looking really good here. Nice pull. Good peppery flavor. This is terrific jerky. Now this will last a couple weeks in the refrigerator, but it'll probably be gone before then. So, delicious. Okay. So we started with 4.5 pounds of meat. After we had it trimmed all the fat off and made it perfect and sliced it, then we smoked it, and we ended up with about 1.75 pounds of finished product. So a little less than half of what you start with is what you're going to end up with. Well, here we are with our final product sitting here in the kitchen counter cooling down, and I think it turned out really well with the pepper flakes and the pepper itself in the brine. Gives it a real good punch, and I believe if we can just let it cool, put it in a plastic bag and put it in the refrigerator, it'll last a couple weeks, if it doesn't get eaten before then. I'm sure it will, because it's pretty tasty stuff. So thank you for enjoying this video, and I hope you have good luck with your beef jerky. Okay, here we go. We got the sausage dogs looking at the jerky. I think they like it too. They're wiener dogs. This is Maddie and Remington. Remington's 6 and Maddie's just over a year old. Oh, that's sweet. She goes, Dad, give me some jerky. I want some jerky, Dad.
If you enjoyed the content in the video, please hit the subscribe and like button. Don't forget the bell for future videos.